So, hey, welcome everybody tonight. My name is TK Kugler, founder and sort of managing partner of Wasabi Ventures Stables. And tonight, we kind of have a really special program. We do these webinars once or twice a month, and this one's our first one where we're going to do a meet the trainer. And tonight, we're lucky enough to have one of our trainers on, and Jesse Cruz is on the line. And the way we're going to do this tonight, I'm going to ask some questions. This will be very Oprah style. But if you have questions and you're out there and you're online, feel free to chat those questions to me. I have a list of questions that I'm going to work through. But if a question arises that you want to get asked, just go ahead and chat it. Use the chat function at the bottom, and I'll try to work those in as the best I can. So, thanks, Jesse, for coming tonight. Let's start with a real simple question. What made you want to be a trainer, and at sort of what age did you think you were going to be a trainer?
Well, I grew up in the sport. My father's a jockey. My mom is an assistant trainer, and most of my life I wanted to be a jockey. I had a set of silks made. I was a jockey for Halloween when I was like a little kid and stuff like that. And just life took over, and I got too big to do that. And about 18, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to be a jockey, and I started pursuing a career and being an assistant trainer and things like that, and hoping to go on and become a trainer. Was kind of around the age of 18, 19.
Mm-hmm. And
so, yeah.
For those that don't know, tomorrow is Jesse's birthday. So Jesse will be the ripe age of 25 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're getting to be old. So
yeah,
obviously from the point that you were 18 to you're a full-fledged trainer, and that's only like a 7-year span there. Where talk to us a little bit about who you worked for. Obviously you talked about your family and the connection there, but who else did you work for, and sort of how did you get to all the way to getting to your trainer's license?
Well, I graduated school in 2012, in May of 2012, high school, and I left that winter, that fall, and went to Gulfstream, and I was just freelance galloping down there for a trainer named Cam Gambelotti. And I kind of bounced around in freelance gallops for a bunch of different people, but then I kind of found my groove when I came back to Maryland that spring, and I was working for Ollie Figgins III as an assistant, and I worked for him and really learned under him for a while. Galloped Dance to Bristol, a good grade 1 winner. All across the country. I galloped her at the Breeders' Cup for him and everything else. And through her, I met connections of Bill Mott and them, because I traveled all over the country with her. And then once she retired, I went to work that following summer at Saratoga for Bill Mott, and I worked there and as an exercise rider, but I was always in the barn. I wanted to be more than just that. And in those barns, there's always, when you have 80 head of horses, there's always extra things that you can do and learn. And Bill was a trainer that, allows you to do that. The following year, I worked for Mike Maker, and same kind of scenario. Like, I'm an exercise rider, but I'm doing a lot of extra things in the barn as well. I'm holding horses for the blacksmith. I'm holding horses for the vet and learning, jogging horses for the vet and stuff like that. And after that, I went back to Maryland again and took over being Ollie's main assistant in Maryland. We had up to about 25 head of horses, and I was like that for a while. And I just kind of decided to, probably a little bit young and ambitious, and went out on my own and took my trainer's test and passed it, and got one horse sent to me, and have grown from there.
Mm-hmm. And Jesse, are there trainers that you are trying to model your career off of? Or obviously you were, you were around Bill Mott and you were around Ollie Figgins, but are there other trainers that you sort of look to and say, that's a model for how I want to do my career?
I mean, yes and no. I didn't say this is, I haven't ever woke up and said, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I want my career to be, and I'm going to do it like this. So, I decided that I wanted to train horses, and I had Javier Contreras sent me my very first horse. And, I just wake up every day and just go from there, and train the horses that I have in my barn. And hopefully one day things just get going, and they grow from there. I've never really, I kind of try to do my own thing. I try to train horses a certain way through the way I was taught from the trainers, but my career itself, I try to make my own path for that.
If you, what's next for you? Where are you right now? What's the plan for the next, 6 months?
Well, as of right now, our stable is at Charlestown. I'm in Charlestown right now, and the plan is, as of the middle of January, we're going to head out to Oakland, and that's really where the next 6 months is going to be, is out west in Oakland. And the idea is to go out there and try to meet some new owners and some new connections, and claim some horses from Oakland. And that's really my 6 month plan from there, is just to be out there with a few horses and really try to just venture out and do something new, a new circuit, and try to get some new horses into the barn and go from there, and head back to Delaware is the ultimate goal.
Cool.
For next summer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let me jump into a couple specific questions around training, and these are a couple questions that came up. If you how do you determine if you're going to work a horse in the morning, by in company or not in company? What's the determination for you? How do you think about that?
Well, it depends. Some horses are very good work horses, and they work, they put enough effort into their works, and they get a lot out of it on their own. Typically older horses are a lot like that. Younger horses, definitely you want to work them in company. You want them, if it's a younger horse that's never raced, or even a younger horse just in general, you want them to always be around other horses, and they put more effort into working and get more out of it. They can learn a little bit, switch it up from time to time, have them one on the inside, one on the outside, and then maybe the following week or whenever you work them again, switch it, put the other horse on the inside and the other one on the outside. And I just when it comes to working older horses in company, it depends on how fast I want them to work. If I'm looking for just an easy maintenance work, I might work them by themselves. If I'm, maybe say I have a horse that I've been running 3/4, 6 furlongs, and I'm going to stretch him out. Well, I need a good work in between the races, because we're going to stretch him out to a mile or something like that. I'm probably going to put that older horse in company and work it a good 5/8. So that way he puts a lot of effort into the work and he gets a lot out of it. Cause typically they're competitive animals, they're competitive, and, they work better in company. But if, say I'm just looking for a nice maintenance half mile or something like that, and with an older horse, I'll just, send them out there by themselves without company, and just tell the rider, just take it easy on them and just let them do their thing. So that's kind of how I do that.
Yep. If staying on that sort of training thinking, horses when they race switch their leads, right? And you'll be looking
right.
for that as it's doing it, because that can be a sign of if it doesn't want to switch its lead. Is that something that's natural, or is that something that you train for a horse to switch?
It's a little bit of both. It's a natural feeling for them to want to switch, and as they go into a turn and they're going around the turn, it's a natural feeling for 90% of horses to want to be on their left lead, going around a left turn. It's just easier for them to do that, because they can kind of lean into the turn a little bit and use that group of muscles. But it's not 100% natural for every horse. So it is something that usually happens when you're breaking them. You usually, start teaching them that as you're breaking them. And then when they first come to the track, that's something you're teaching them to do is, okay, switch into the turn left lead, which is, like I said, most horses pick that up very easily because it's easier for them to go around the turn in their left lead. And then you have to usually teach them to switch back to the right lead. Some horses will pick it up easier than others, and then some won't. They're all very different, but it comes natural, but at the same time we try to help guide them along with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another sort of training thing is how do you determine who's going to exercise? Because I know you obviously ride because you wanted to be a jockey. You exercise a lot of the horses yourself. How do you determine who's the exercise jockey in any given situation? What's your thought process, and how does that work?
Well, for me as an exercise rider, if they're just galloping and stuff like that, typically, at first I got on my own. I galloped on my own. But as I grew and got more, I had to get, higher help and stuff like that. And, just from an exercise rider standpoint, I like to see how, say I get along with the horse very well, then I'm going to gallop that one. But there's some horses I don't get along with that somebody else will a little better. And, I'll just determine, you kind of determine that through watching them and how they train and how they train with other people. As for works, typically for me, once a horse is an older horse or further along as a 2-year-old and they're working and behaving well, I'll have jockeys come and work them. And typically the jockey that I'm going to ride is who I, try to ride and have them ride in the race and stuff like that is who I'll have come work them. But, as just from an everyday standpoint of an exercise rider, it's just who gets along with the horse the best and who I think gets the horse well collected and in a good manner and can, ride them and get them to behave behave in the order that I want them to. Mm-hmm. And that just comes from just watching them and being at the barn every day and watching different people gallop each horse from there.
Mm-hmm. So let's transition from the training in the mornings to the afternoons. There's an old joke that when you give jockeys instructions, it's kind of a waste of time because they either can't do it or don't listen. How do you handle jockey instructions in the paddock? What's your thinking there, and what are you trying to accomplish?
I mean, it just depends. I don't try to. At the end of the day, they're professionals, and at the end of the day, they're going to come out and most jockeys are reading the racing form, and they already have an idea in their head what they want to do. And for me, as of right now, I have, I claim a lot of horses. So a lot of the horses I have are older horses that already, have had their running style, and you can look at the form and say, okay, he's won a lot of races close to the pace. So, you'll remind them in the paddock, hey, like, this horse likes to be close, or this horse comes from off of it. If I want to do something completely different and say a horse was running near the pace and I want to take him from off the pace, I'll tell him, like, look, I know this horse doesn't typically do that, but I'm trying to do something different with him today, like break and take a hold of him and take him back. But I'm not a guy that says at the 3/16 pole, you need to be here. At the, half-mile pole, you got to be at this spot on the inside of this horse. I don't try to dictate it that much because I know as soon as those doors open, everything goes out the window sometimes. But I do try to tell them if I want a horse near the pace or take him back, I do mention that to them in the paddock and hope they listen to me for the most part.
Yeah, probably. That's probably. Yeah, that's wishful thinking most of the time. So one of the questions that this is a really common question, and it's one I've had to answer many times, but I think people would love to hear your answer is, you have a 2-year-old and they're unraced. How do you determine what level you're going to start that horse at? What goes into the thinking and what are you trying to do there?
I mean, a lot of things go into the thinking of it. Typically a lot of times if you have a, say in a bigger stable, when they have a bunch of 2-year-olds, they can really compare, because say one's already ran and it runs well at a maiden special level. and it's worked alongside this other horse that hasn't run, and the other horse has been beating it in the morning and things like that, then you say, okay, well, this one's obviously at that level as well. But it just goes through their morning works, their morning behavior. You don't want to run a horse over its head too many times and things like that. So if a horse is working steadily along and doing everything you're asking of them, you start picking up on cues and things like that and figuring it out. It's one of those things where it's how easily they're doing their work and how easily they're doing their training. A filly that I trained for you guys and trapped in my mind, when she got sent to me, everything that I asked her to do, she did very well, picked up on it very easily. She would gallop 1.5 miles alongside of another 2-year-old, and, they would go the same exact pace, the same exact distance, and she wouldn't come back tired, where the other one would. And it wasn't so much as a fitness thing. It's just she does it easier. You compare animals to athletes all the time. Well, I was an athlete in high school, but I went to school with a kid that went on to the NFL, and he could train and practice completely harder than I could. It's the same kind of scenario. So you start comparing them in that aspect: is how easily do they do their training? How easily do they go through the training that you're asking them to do? And then that's kind of where you go from there and start determining, okay, this is a maiden special weight horse. This one might be a maiden 25, and then so on down is how I kind of start to do it.
Yep.
So that's kind of it.
Does the price that the owner paid factor in there at all for you?
Yeah, it does. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times with 2-year-olds, that definitely factors in, because a lot of time with 2-year-olds, they have to get out there eventually and start learning. So you don't want to say, okay, he or she paid, $40,000 for this horse, and it's not working as well as we hoped. So we're just going to run him for maiden 10. You like to say, okay, let's definitely give him a shot, for the maiden 40 or something like that, and hope the light bulb starts clicking with them and going off from there. But that definitely is something that you factor into it. And, especially with you guys, TK, you and I discuss everything completely out and start mapping out plans with them once we get close to races and stuff like that. So that definitely comes into it. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
What you just brought up is an interesting question, and is a good segue. Talk to me a little bit about. I mean, you're early in your career, but you've had a handful of owners now. What's the ideal way for an owner trainer experience to be? I mean, what makes your job? What allows you to be the most successful as a trainer from a what kind of owner helps you do that?
I mean, owners that that obviously believe in you, believe that what you're doing is right by their horse, right by their animal, and understands that me and my crew, my team, we wake up every day, at 4 a.m. We handle these horses every day, and we give them the best care we can, and we're around them every single day. And owners that understand that even though a horse didn't run a good race one time doesn't mean they can't come back and run a better race, or that allows you to place them in very competitive spots. You claim a horse hoping to improve it, or hoping to at least keep him at the same level at what he was, and they allow you to do that. I've trained for owners that, I've claimed a horse for 5,000 and then they want me to run it in the other thens. And it's like, it kind of just doesn't work that way. This horse is what it is. And owners that understand that some horses are what they are, and that's okay. We can still just run them at that level and be okay with it. And that's what truly allows a trainer to one, win at a good percentage and do their job without hesitation and second guessing themselves.
A question from the crowd. This is a question from Tammy. So she asked, how do you handle winter months with training when it's cold? Does anything significantly change because it's cold?
Yeah. Training wise, not so much. Like you try to typically train them the same as you can. Um, but what really the cold hinders is track conditions and training in the morning. I'm here in Charlestown right now. It's calling for snow tomorrow. So obviously today I was planning on training a few horses, breezing a couple horses tomorrow actually, and I ended up working them today because of the weather coming in and things like that. And most horses, horses in general like the cold more than they do the heat. They're large animals, so they handle the cold very well. Now, when it gets down to 5 and 3 degrees for those 4 or 5 days in January and February, when it does that all the time, that's a different story. No one likes being outside when it's that cold, and you try to get as much done that you can and go from there, kind of deal. But as the weather is right now, it doesn't really change much. You just have to keep an eye on the weather when you're looking to do certain things like breeze horses and stuff like that because of how the track will be. But the winter months are kind of just, you have to take it play by ear kind of deal.
Yeah. If you another sort of segueing off of that question, if you had your complete sort of preference, would you rather train in hot weather or cold weather? I mean, is there, just from your own preference standpoint?
I would rather it be hot, in all honesty. It's easier for your help, and it's easier for to do what you have to do. It's when, say you have a barn of 25 head of horses, your help definitely would rather wake up every morning and come in. Now, from the horse standpoint, horses definitely like the cold better, but you can do a lot of things to help them in the heat. It definitely makes it easier to train your horse in the summertime and than it is in the wintertime, because you don't have to worry about it being 3 degrees and the track being closed the next day and this and that. So I definitely would rather have the summer months than the winter months. That's for sure.
So if you mentioned Trapped in My Mind, which is a horse that you've trained for us and is currently on the farm. And what have you liked about training Trapped, and what's the horse like in the morning? What's your take in Trapped in My
Mind? Trapped in My Mind is a pleasure to train in the morning. She's got a bit of an attitude gallop in her. She likes to do her own thing, and she definitely feels herself when she's doing good. She's on her toes and kind of has a little bit of an attitude about her, but nothing crazy. She just has an edge to her. But what I like about her is you can throw anything at her, and she just puts her head down and tries to do the best she can in every aspect of it. The first day we took her to the gate, she walked right in. The first time we breezed her, a half mile, she come out of it well and looked to do more the following day. She just handles everything very well in stride. Both times we ran her, she was a first time starter that you could do. Just, she acted like an older horse. We cut her loose from the pony, warmed her up without the pony in the post parade. She doesn't have the most speed coming from the gate, and she had a lot of dirt kicked back there in her face. She handles that excellently. Handles being in between horses, rates if you need her to. She just does everything as well as you can expect a horse to do, and you can't really rattle her when you throw something new at her in training. So yeah, she's a pretty nice filly.
Staying with her, we're sending her with you to Oakland. Have you, and this may be premature, but do you have any sense of how she's going to handle the Oakland dirt? I mean, because each surface is a little different. Do you have any sense yet, or is that probably a little premature for you?
Well, it's the only reason why I would say it would be premature is I've never been to Oakland myself. I don't know how the track is there. Personally, I've never galloped over it. I've never walked over it. But I do, I've spoke to a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that do the Delaware to Oakland back to Delaware. And a lot of them really think the track is similar. Like I said, I can't verify that because I've never been there. But I don't think she's gonna mind any surface really. Like I said, she doesn't. Nothing seems to phase her. She's not a horse to me that I would say, man, this track, it really isn't going to suit her today. I would be shocked if a rider come back and said that to me about her one day. Just because she handles everything so well. But like I said, I won't know until I get out there really, because I've never seen the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So.
What are you most excited about going to Oakland about? What's the most exciting piece for you?
Honestly, probably taking her is a very big thing to go out there. I really look for her to have a great 3-year-old campaign if everything goes the way we think it will. But just a new environment. I've never been there. I traveled a lot, like we said before I trained, from Gulfstream to Saratoga to out in California. So it's a new track. It's a new circuit, just a lot of new clientele that I could meet, new business aspects, a lot of things. So it's just a new, fresh start kind of deal for my business and for our career and our stable growing. So yeah.
You mentioned Trapped and her 3-year-old campaign. What's your thoughts about 3-year-olds running against older horses early in a calendar year?
It scares me. I look at 3-year-olds as kids in junior high, where they're starting to physically mature, but they're not there yet completely, where older horses are there and they're just faster, they're just stronger, they're smarter most of the time. And they really start to catch up, towards the middle to end of the summer. But luckily for us, as of right now, we have a filly who, just like boys and girls, fillies seem to mature a little faster, which is nice. But I do not like running 3-year-olds against older horses early in the year. It's something that I would much rather run in straight 3-year-old races. Just because I think everyone in the industry talks about a horse is a 2-year-old, now it's 3. But I really believe 3-year-old to 4-year-old is when they grow the most. That 3-year-old year is when they start really maturing and growing into becoming nice racehorses. So yeah.
So along those lines, there are trainers who almost, to a point, don't run their horses at all as 2-year-olds, or run them very, very limited.
Right.
Where's your mindset on that?
Well, okay, so I grew up here in Charlestown, and my mom is assistant for James Casey, who has been the leading breeder in West Virginia for as long as I can remember. And every year he has a crop of 2-year-olds, and every year, it's he brings them in and he gets them ready, and they run them. And then I went to work for Bill Mott, who's not known for winning a lot of 2-year-old races, who's known for having their horses stick around longer and running as 5, 6, 7-year-olds. There's definitely horses that come in and mature fast and are very precocious and run well as young 2-year-olds and sprint well. But I definitely believe taking your time with a 2-year-old is the best thing for them. And trying to pay attention to each and every one of them and knowing this one's going to mature a little bit faster. This year, for example, with you guys, you sent me 2 2-year-olds and Trapped in My Mind and Necessary Drama. And they both trained every day together and did the exact same thing. And Trapped in My Mind, handled everything very well, where Necessary Drama is a little bit more immature and gets a little bit rattled when you throw things new at her and a little hasty and this and that. And, it's shown in the way she's ran. So, from there, you have to kind of pick your poison and try to weed through them and figure out who's going to mature a little bit faster and who's not. But I definitely like running them at least once or twice as 2-year-olds and letting them get the experience of going over there and running in a race. But I do see the benefits of not running them as 2-year-olds also at the same time. So it's one of those things that you have to really just try to individualize it between each horse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've obviously, you and I have talked a great deal about this. You know, I mean, we basically ran our 2-year-olds a couple times, got them to a feel for it, and now we stuck them on a farm. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, that's I would much rather have them have a great 3-year-old year than a good 2-year-old year. So.
And the other issue with them as 2-year-olds is, you know, you say you have a horse that comes in early, very early. You know, first 2-year-olds are allowed on the grounds. You know, typically in most tracks around February. So each track's a little different in the rules of that. But so then the first 2-year-old races, you know, running. Say you win the very first 2-year-old race. Well, you have nowhere to run that horse now. You're the only horse in the country that's won a race. So when they rate the non-winners at 2 allowance race or the other than, there's going to be 3 horses entered in it, if that. You know, so it's very you get your spots picked, and it's hard for them races to go and things like that. And then you have to start running them in stake races, and sometimes horses aren't ready for that. You know, you might have a horse that won first time out, but he's not a stake horse, or not yet, anyways. You know, and it becomes, you know, it's a difficult thing early in the year too. And, you know, obviously as the year goes on, it starts getting a little easier, but by then the weather's hit in and you want to give them a break anyways. And, so it's definitely a thing that you have to like balance out between each horse.
Yep. As an exercise jock, you know, and somebody who still exercises your horses that you're training, and as somebody who wanted to be a jock yourself, what's your thoughts on the whip, and is it really a necessary tool?
As an exercise rider, it's definitely a necessary tool. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of things not so much as you know, using it to make a horse run faster, in my opinion, but just correcting them and letting them know it's just an extension of your arm, your hand. That's basically how I was taught to use it. It's not so much as something that you're trying to, you know, use to punish them, but just getting their attention, especially with young colts and things like that. You know, you have to have a little bit extra there just to get their attention and get them to start paying attention. As for a race, when I was trying to ride races, you know, I used to breeze a lot of horses for trainers here at Charlestown, like Ollie Figgins, Jeff Runco, Mr. Casey. And there are definitely horses that, and typically a lot of times it's fillies, that when you hit them with the whip in works and in races, they don't like it. But a lot of the big thing I think it's necessary for is it's a safety thing also. When if a horse is lugging in really bad and there's another horse down on its inside in a bad position, you use that whip to help correct them and get them in a straight line. And like I said, it's an extension of your hand in that aspect, and it can help save lives. And as a jockey, you know, your horse is lugging in and you're putting another rider in a bad spot. You have that there to help correct your horse, you know, and help get them in a straight line and keep the other guy, you know, safe and things like that, or vice versa going out. So it's definitely something that's necessary, but it's something that you can't overuse at the same time.
If you had a magic wand and you could fix one thing in racing, what would be that one thing you would fix?
Oh, I don't even know. That's tough. I guess I don't know. I mean, in racing, there's a couple things. Just my biggest thing is when horses are acting up in the paddock or in the gate. I think if a horse slips in the paddock at any racetrack in the country, I believe it should be scratched. And you and I discussed that one day at Timonium. We had a horse in a race, and another horse was acting up very badly, and I think you and I looked at each other and said, if our horse ever does that, we're going to scratch it ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that really bothers me and things like that. But that's something that I think I would change, definitely. New York has gone towards that. If a horse, you know, flips or falls over in the paddock, they're an automatic scratch and things like that. But I believe every racetrack should do that. That's for sure.
If you have talk to me about, and I know one of these answers, but talk to me about your training, you know, dreams. Everybody's got the goal. Hey, you know, you hear it, I'm going to win the Kentucky Derby or whatever, but I that's one I don't particularly like. But talk to me about what your own training dreams are.
You know, my goal is to have a successful stable that's competitive, and people, you know, when I enter horses and people look at me and say, you know, look at their form and say, okay, Jesse Cruz has a horse in this race. This horse is always going to typically be tough. Everything he brings over here does a good job, and a respected stable. But races, you know, to win, you and I spoke about that, and I'm from Charlestown. I was born and raised. Like I said, working for Mr. Casey, growing up, the West Virginia Breeders' Classic at the end of the year was what we worked for every year. I would love to win the West Virginia Breeders' Classic race. But races like that, typically, everybody has a dream, like you said, of winning the Kentucky Derby or winning a Breeders' Cup race. But, you know, as of right now, my goal is to, you know, compete and be competitive in stake races and things like that, even if they are on Maryland Million Day or West Virginia Breeders' Classic Day. And those kind of races, you know, and have a presence on those Saturdays is definitely goals of mine.
Yeah, and hopefully not run last. So
yeah, we were 99 to 1.
Yeah, we were 99 to 1. We got places to improve. That's for sure.
Exactly.
How many hours a week do you spend with the horses? What's in a given week? How much time is with the actual horses?
I probably couldn't even count. Typically, at Delaware this summer, I was at the barn between 4 and 4:30 every morning. We get training hours were from 5:30 till 10 o'clock. So I was there from 4:30, 4 o'clock till 10 o'clock, just training, galloping horses. And then, you know, typically I wouldn't leave till about noon, and then you're back at the barn for the races. Here at Charlestown, the track opens a little later. It's colder now, so they let the sun kind of come up a little bit, so it opens up here at 6:30. And you know, I'm at the barn at about 5 o'clock now, and you know, I'm there till training's over and horses are done up and fed. I can't tell you how many hours exactly, but it's a good bit of my day, that's for sure.
And when was the last time you took a vacation completely away from horses?
I don't know. I can't. I couldn't. I really can't tell you that. I probably took a vacation. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. When I was in Florida, I felt like I was on vacation, but I galloped horses. You know, you're right there on the beach, this and that, but I was still working at the same time. But no, I can't. I don't know the last time I went on an actual just vacation. Yeah. My mom and my dad are kind of the same way. My mom went to Keeneland for an award ceremony thing actually a couple weeks ago, and she told me she was on vacation, and she was at Keeneland and Churchill. So I don't know how much of a vacation that is. So it's kind of the same scenario.
Yeah, understood. If you this one's going to be a tough question for you, I think, but talk to me, or where do you think your biggest area of growth yet as a trainer is? Where's the one place do you think you could improve the most and that you have to improve the most?
For me, my biggest thing is probably, communicating better with clients, and as I am really young, and you and I have discussed this a lot, but I'm not the most technology type person. I grew up in a barn, but definitely communicating with owners, I need to improve a lot on that, and talking to them more frequently, and allowing them to know exactly what's going on each step of the way of everything. I think I do a good job at it, but in today's world, everything's right now, and I could be a lot better at it, is kind of where I'm at with that. I grew a lot this summer, and kind of made a name for myself a little bit here this summer at Delaware. But I definitely need to be more capable of doing things like that outside of the barn, and managing my business in that way.
Yep. Cool. Well, Jess, we got one last question. We got one coming from Vanessa Kerr. Who is your all-time favorite racehorse?
My all-time favorite racehorse is a horse named Russell Road. He really is. I grew up, like I said, I grew up in the sport, but Russell Road, you can look him up. My mom's boss trained him. My mom was his groom, and I was his personal hot walker at 14 years old. And he ran till he was 10. He made $2 million running at Charlestown. He had 64 starts and 32 wins. And he truly made me fall in love with the game and understand that it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just, it's nice to know that your hard work pays off. My mom has roughed horses her whole life, and he was kind of like that horse that was like, okay, this is the one that's going to take you everywhere. So yeah, he's my all-time favorite horse.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jess, hey, thanks for your time tonight. It was really great. I think you were successful enough as the premier trainer that we'll do this again with someone else, and now you've kind of set the bar that they can only screw it up from here. Is really what I would say. So
okay.
Yeah. So thanks for your time tonight, and I'm sure I'll talk to you in the morning.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.